Hello there. I thought today we could make a cocktail together. Those of you who know about cocktails may be able to guess what the cocktail is. It's a classic. It is a martini. A martini is an excellent classic cocktail. Nobody knows exactly where it originated from. There are a few different rumours, but it's a classic. It's a very simple cocktail, and there are some different ways you can personalise it to your taste. I'm going to do this martini with a twist that I was told about from a friend that has changed how I make martinis now. Here we have some gin. This is London Dry Gin, which is a great gin to use for a martini. You could also use Plymouth gin, I guess, or any kind of gin really. But a good quality gin. This is Tanqueray, which is quite a standard gin, I guess. So we're going to use gin. You could also use vodka instead. I think some people actually say that if you're making a dirty martini, you should use vodka rather than gin. But I don't listen to those people. I think gin is best. And then we have vermouth, which is the other important ingredient in a martini. The vermouth is fortified wine, and it is sweet. So when people talk about martinis and whether they like them dry or wet, they're normally talking about how much vermouth is used, because the vermouth creates the level of sweetness you're going to have. More vermouth means a more sweet drink, which means wetter. Less vermouth means less sweet, which is therefore drier. A cocktail can never really be dry because it is a drink, but dryness and wetness refers to the sweetness of a drink. Vermouth you're meant to store in the fridge, because as soon as you've opened it, you should store it in the fridge in order to best preserve it. In the UK, in supermarkets, which is the place that you can most easily find vermouth, I guess, a big supermarket, unless you want to go to some sort of liquor store, they always come in these massive bottles, which I don't love, because you're only meant to sort of have them in the fridge for about a month, I think. What does it say on here? Yeah, I mean, it says a month on here. And, I mean, who's getting through this amount of vermouth in a month? A litre. Probably not most people. I wish they sold them in smaller bottles. They probably do, I've just not really found them. You can get different types of vermouth. To be honest, I don't really care which type of vermouth it is. I think any is fine. Technically this one is extra dry, which I guess means less sweet, which is good. For my taste at least. I like a drink that is more complex and more bitter and has a sort of kick to it that isn't just sweetness. I think that when you're younger, your cocktail tastes are quite sweet focused. Everyone loves a really sugary drink that's sort of brightly coloured. A pina colada or something like that. But as you get older, you like sweetness less and less. You like things that are more savoury. I make it sound like I'm really old. I'm not. but I've noticed that I really don't care for sweet things the older I get, particularly when it comes to drinks. So this has been stored in the fridge. The gin I also stored in the fridge. Really, you should store it in the freezer if you can, because we want this drink to be as cold as possible. It is not served over ice, which means we need we need it to be chilled as much as possible without trying to dilute the drink, because it doesn't have ice in the glass, and we don't really want to dilute it too much with the ice that we mix with. So having these already very cold is very helpful. Here I have some olives and what do you call these things? A cocktail stick, I guess. An olive is a very important part of a martini for my taste. You can also do it with lemon, a lemon twist, but olive is the way to go, particularly for a dirty martini, because we're going to use olive brine. So these are black olives, so this is a black olive brine. You could do it with green olives as well. I'm not really sure which one is more normal, more often used, but today we're going to use black olives because that's all I've got. It is the brine of the olives that makes it dirty, that gives it that little kick. And then the secret ingredient, which is this strange yellowy green, greeny yellow, I guess, little liquid, which is a different kind of brine, which is jalapeno brine. And this is a game changer for a martini. People often use jalapenos in things like margaritas, which makes sense because you use a lot of that kind of chili for Mexican dishes, so it makes sense it would go with a margarita. And it works really well there, a kind of spicy margarita thing. But with a martini, just a little bit of this just gives it a little kick and a little bitterness. It's not about making the drink spicy, it's about giving it just like a little something else. You could make a martini without any of the brines, which would therefore be not a dirty martini. And you could just play with the dryness and wetness of the drink with the vermouth. You can go basically to hardly any vermouth at all. Like sometimes people just spray it on the glass, which I think is a bit ridiculous, because at that point you're just drinking gin. Up to, even like a 50-50 ratio between the gin and the vermouth, which is, I think, how the cocktail kind of originated, to make it very sweet. And you can try putting some bitters in the drink instead of the brine. So if you didn't want to make a dirty martini, you could put in some kind of bitters to give it a bit of flavour, a bit of complexity, a bit of something else. And that can work quite well, particularly if you're using a lemon twist rather than an olive. And then I've got some tools here. I've got my cocktail glass here. This is the martini glass, which is going to be very useful for us. I've got our mixing glass. This is specifically for stirring drinks rather than shaking them. You can shake a martini, James Bond famously did, but if you shake a drink, you are shattering the ice, which means the drink will be more diluted. And the general rule of thumb with cocktails is if a drink just has spirits in it, you want to stir. You don't want to dilute the spirits too much. Shaking is better for when you're including things like some kind of juice, and what else? Particularly if it's like a drink with egg white in it or something, to make it frothy. Shakers are quite good. or if you want to dilute the drink. So you can shake it, but we're going to do the classic way, which is to stir, which I think the pedants of this world, or to put that in a more polite way, the purists of this world would say you should really stir a martini. I've got my jigger here. This is a 30ml and a 15ml. This is the right size for this drink because everything that we're going to be pouring is going to be multiples of 15. So this works really well. We've got our strainer. This isn't technically the right kind of strainer for this glass. You should really use a julep strainer, which is the one that looks like a big spoon with lots of holes in it. I have one of those, but it doesn't really fit this glass very well, and I find it's a bit cack-handed. So this, for me, fits a lot better. It's, really simple. We've got our spoon. This is useful for putting things in a drink like an olive, but also we're going to use it to stir. And then I have these two speed pourers, which you'd probably find more in a bar situation where people are pouring lots of drinks really quickly or doing a tray of shots or something, but I find these quite useful when pouring things into a jigger, just to have absolute control. Okay, we should get going before this ice melts too much. Oh, I should also say that the glass I have put in the freezer, again, to cool it down and to create a cocktail that is as cold as possible. Ice cold is what we're really aiming for here. Okay, so first of all, let's start with the main ingredient, which is the gin. We are going to use 75 millilitres of gin. There are different ratios people use. This is the ratio I like, I think, best. So this is 30. So we need 2 of this side, the big side, to make 60, and then we need 1 of the smaller side to make 75. So we will pour a 1, a 2, and then 1 of the small side. Apologies for the what sounds like emergency vehicle outside. And that is our gin. Easy peasy. Now the vermouth. I don't want this drink to be too sweet, so we are just going to use 15 mils of vermouth in our drink. Simple. Okay. Let's get rid of these lids. Okay, cool. Now, for the brine, to make it dirty, if you wanted to do it without the spiciness, I would do 15 millilitres of olive brine. But because I want to add a little kick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this jigger most of the way up with olive brine, and then I'm just going to top up a little bit with the jalapeno brine. It's a little less mathematical, this way of doing it, but because I'm only looking for 15 mils, I like to eyeball this. It's not going to make too much of a difference. So I will pour in some olive brine most of the way to the top, then I'm just going to stop. Then I'm going to get my jalapeno brine, top it up to the top, and in we go. Lovely. I think green olives are often more useful for a martini in terms of the colouring, because the black olive brine does make it kind of this brownie colour. Okay, cool. Now, the ice has probably melted a little bit. When stirring a cocktail, we're looking for a motion where the back of the spoon is basically against the edge of the glass. We're not really pressing against the glass, but it's that motion. So the dip of the spoon is facing the middle at all times, and it's going round like a clock. And we want to kind of do this. We don't want to stir it and make loads of noise with the ice. We want to stir it in this way. The quieter the better. That's always the test. We want it to be reasonably quiet. And we're just going to do this until the glass gets very cold. I think sometimes people over stir drinks. I think because cocktails sometimes seem like a bit of a black magic, people sort of, they think that there's these rules where you have to like do 30 times this way, 30 times that way, or sometimes people talk about stirring drinks for like 5 minutes, and I just think that you're just diluting the drink if you do that. So really the game is, when does it feel really cold on the outside? Does it start to frost up? It's probably not going to frost up now because I've got a light up and everything's been sitting out here a little bit while I've been talking. But that's normally how you gauge it. It's when it frosts up. Okay. That seems pretty good to me. Okie dokie. Now, we'll take our martini glass. We'll take our strainer. Ooh. And we're just going to pour this into the glass, making sure none of the ice comes out with it. There we go. And then for the olive, the way I like to do it is, if you take olive, just give it 3 pokes just to encourage it to mix with the drink, and then just drop it in. We don't really need this in order to serve the drink. You could put the olive on the stick, maybe in the middle, and then rest it on the side like that. You could kind of do that. Or I suppose you could leave it in. Doesn't look as good that way. But I think a martini looks best simple, elegant, with a little savoury treat at the end. Yeah, I guess all that's left to do is to give it a taste. Very good. I honestly think that the jalapeno brine trick is a game changer. I would love to know if you've ever tried it, and if not, please do try it and let me know what you think. It just gives it an extra little quality. I think cocktails that are simple, the classics, are often the best, particularly when they're made with really good premium ingredients. But when cocktails are really, really simple like this, when there's really only sort of 2 and a little bit ingredients, they can sometimes just taste like the original liquor. So I think just that little kick from the jalapeno just gives it an extra like layer that just makes it feel less like you're just drinking gin that's a bit sweet. Lovely. It's not quite as cold as I would like. That's because I've rambled on and we're under a light. But it tastes great. I'd love to know what your favourite cocktails are. And if you have any cocktail hacks like this, that'd be cool to know. And maybe I'll make another one, a different kind of cocktail. I'm quite good at making cocktails, I'd say. I'm not the best, but I'm not the worst. So maybe some requests as to future cocktails you'd like to see, that could be cool. Maybe, I don't know, it could be any of the classics, or something a little bit more rogue. Yeah. Cheers.